Hi guys, this is Miss Anderson here with another Knock 'em Out video, and today we are going to talk about how to cite text evidence. Okay, this is a reading and a writing strategy in which this is what all good readers and all good writers are able to do. Okay, so let's learn how to cite text evidence. Let's go. So first, let's understand what exactly is text evidence. Text evidence is information, examples, and details taken from a fiction or nonfiction text that helps to support an analysis, reflection, or argument. So we use evidence taken from the text in order to support our thesis or our point when we are speaking or writing. So, using text evidence correctly helps to make you a stronger speaker and a stronger writer. So, the purpose of citing text evidence again is to make our speaking and our writing stronger. So, in order to support an analysis or a reflection or an argument, we have to pull evidence from the text because this is what supports those things and tells the reader that we understand sufficiently and are able to give them information based upon the evidence that we have pulled from the text. So we are going to go through some examples of citing text evidence. We are going to use the fictional novel called The Skin I'm In, where we are going to reflect on the text and our experiences, and then we will draw evidence from the text and we're going to use it to cite in our writing. So the book we are going to use for our example in citing text evidence is called The Skin I'm In. It is written by Miss Sharon Flake and is a realistic fictional novel for young adults. It is about a middle school girl who has issues with self-esteem and confidence in herself. And some of the themes from the book are about friendship, again, confidence in yourself, bullying, and courage. So, one of the many things that I like about this book, besides the story, is that it was full of literary devices. The author used, I would say, almost every literary device known in literature. So, when we are reading this book and analyzing it, we can see many examples of characterization, similes, metaphors, hyperboles, idioms, personification, and more. So we will not have any problem citing text evidence using this text. Okay, so we cite text generally in two ways. The first way is a direct quote. So a direct quote is where we draw, meaning take from the text, directly as it is written and place it in your writing. That is a direct quote, and we're going to see some examples in just a moment. So a direct quote is one way to cite text evidence, and another way to cite text evidence is either to summarize or paraphrase the text. And again, that is drawing from the text, but you are adding your opinion and or analysis or reflection to the information that you're pulling from the text. And we're going to see an example of a paraphrase as well, so you'll know what that looks like. Okay, let's give it a try here. Now listen closely. So remember that this example is one of a direct quote. A direct quote is where we are pulling directly from the text and we are going to add it to our writing exactly as it appears in the text. So this is an example of a simile, okay, that we are going to use as evidence in our text. Okay, so if you see on page 3 of the text, it says, Malika, your skin is pretty like a blue-black sky after it rained and rained. So the way we would cite that text evidence is we would write in our paragraph, in our essay, we would say on page 3, an example of a simile would be, Malika, your skin is pretty like a blue-black sky after it's rain and rain. So there we are citing our text evidence, and then after we cite our text evidence, we want to show the reader that we really do know what a simile is by explaining to them that we do. So we can say something like, here the author is comparing Malika's skin to the color of the sky being blue-black. This tells the reader that we understand that a simile is a comparison between two things using like or as. This is one example of directly quoting from the text. Again, when we quote directly from the text, we are taking it just like it is written and we are placing it in our writing. So here we have another example of a direct quote. So we are going to again pull text evidence from the text and we are going to directly place it in our writing. So here we have an example of a hyperbole, okay? And we found this hyperbole in the text and it says, me, I'm wishing the building would collapse on top of me. Okay, so if you know the text, this was in reference to the boys teasing Malika in class. Okay, and so we would put that into our writing. We would add something like, according to the text, me, I'm wishing the building would collapse on top of me, is a hyperbole that shows an exaggeration. Because we know that's what a hyperbole is. It's an extreme exaggeration. And we would analyze that by telling the reader, Malika just wants the kids to stop teasing her. So the exaggeration is Malika doesn't really want a building to fall on her. She really just wants the kids to stop teasing her. So this is an example of a hyperbole. Now, one other thing that I need to make you aware of is that when you directly quote from a text, you have to put it in quotation marks. So the words that you are taking from the text, you put them within quotations, just like we have here. So again, this is another example of directly quoting from the text, and we changed it up a little bit. Instead of saying on page 3, you can say according to the text, and then add your quote, me, I'm wishing the building would collapse on top of me, and then you can state that it is an example coming from the text. So this is one more example of directly quoting from the text. Okay, here is an example of paraphrasing. Now, paraphrasing, in contrast to direct quotes, is that paraphrasing, we take the text evidence from the text, but we put it in our own words instead of doing a direct quote. So let's look at an example here, okay? So we are going to take the text from the bottom of page 3 in the text where it says John McIntyre is the smallest seventh grader in the world and even fifth graders can see over his head. So we are going to use that and we are going to place that in our writing, but we are going to paraphrase. So we all know what characterization is. Characterization is when the author or the characters themselves lets us get to know the characters. So they are talking about the characters and we can infer and we can draw conclusions based upon what they tell us about the characters. So in this case, it's actually Malika telling us about John. So here we can write that up. We can say the author, or we can say Malika, characterizes John as being the smallest seventh grader in the world and that even fifth graders can see over his head. So we can infer that that means that John must be pretty small if children that are 2 years younger than him can see over his head. So we can add to that our reflection and we can say, this would explain why he teases Malika. It is because he is insecure with himself. And so we do find out later on in the book, as we learn more and more about John's character, that that is the reason why he teased Malika so much, and it was because he was insecure with himself. So I hope you are able to see the difference between paraphrasing and directly quoting. So directly quoting, we are taking it from the text just as it is written in the text, but paraphrasing, we are taking the text, but we are also combining it with our reflection and our analysis and our opinion of what that means. So this is an example of paraphrasing. Now, just for kicks, there are two other literary devices on this page. One is an alliteration and the other is another simile. Can you pick them out? Can you draw them out? Another simile and an alliteration. Okay, so now that you know how to cite text evidence, either through a direct quote or through paraphrasing, here are some examples of how to get started in writing your sentences. So I want you to feel free to use these as you start to cite evidence in your writing. So let's take a look at them. So you could start your sentence off with, according to the text, and then you can add your text evidence. According to the text, Malika showed low self-esteem by, and then you would give an example. You could also say something like, the author states that, and you can give another example taken from the text. One of my favorites is, on page blank is an example of. That's a very common one, but you don't want to use the same, sentence over and over again. So try to only use it once and then use other sentences as well. So an example of, and then you give the example based on. For example, the author feels, and then you can say something like, blank is a demonstration of blank. So all of these are sentence starters to help you get started with citing your text evidence. And I know you are going to do well. Okay, guys, we are at the end. So, from the last slide, were you able to pull out the other literary devices, the examples of simile and alliteration? I hope you were. Okay, so this right here is a proverb that my grandmother used to love to say. She would say, Jackie, the proof is in the pudding. So I am going to use this with my wonderful students, okay? The proof is in the pudding means that you are going to do excellent in citing text evidence. So that is what a proverb is. It is when you say something that is believed to be true. And I believe that you are going to be wonderful at citing text evidence. So just keep in mind that learning how to correctly and effectively cite text evidence will make you both a stronger speaker and a stronger writing. If you have any questions, please let me know, and good luck to you. Bye.